Hey y'all, and welcome to Shade and the City. I'm your girl Treese, and we are here to get into Beyond the Gate, season 1, episode 32. And this is today's episode, Thursday, April 10th. So yeah, if you it was good too. It was real good. We're gonna have a good little conversation about this one. So if you haven't already, please on my BTG Shade Squad, stand up. Y'all go ahead and hit that like button for me. And for all the new viewers, if you liking the vibe, go ahead and subscribe. Okay. That was a bar. I'm just playing. But yeah, y'all. So go ahead and do that for me. And let's get into this intro and we're gonna get into this episode because okay, Queen Mother showed up. Okay. I loved it. Let's get into it. Let's get shady. All right, y'all. So we're kicking off this episode. We see that Vernon and Anita, they are talking about how great the fashion show was, and how their grandchildren and great grands are just growing up so quickly in front of their faces. And so Anita says that she felt Danny has finally accepted that their modeling era is over. She's grateful for the fashion show because it feels like it's getting her mind off Bill. And they talk about how much money she was able to raise for First Gen, which I guess is the charity. They both hope that Danny can stay on this path of like doing good and serving others. And Vernon talks about how serving others serves you. And so Samantha's telling Smitty that she wants to be a model. She says like she felt the runway was where she was meant to be. She addresses all of his concerns before Smitty can like bring them up. And I thought that for her to argue her argument, right? I absolutely thought that was very smart. And I think that, and it was funny because I think that I mentioned how Chelsea had kind of basically answered all her questions or telling her like what she needs to do, what she needs to prepared for. And I feel like she gave her all the tools. So by the time she went down and sat with her parents, she knew what to say. And I thought it was brilliant. It goes to show, in my opinion, kind of her maturity level. She said that her real concern is getting Martin on board because her other daddy, you know what I'm saying? So meanwhile, Martin is upstairs because we know that they tried this whole let's separate, divide, and conquer thing. So Tyrell's upstairs and Martin's like, well, why did you pull me to the side to talk? And he tells him that sometimes he thinks that his fathers don't think people their age can handle their own problems or make their decisions. So Martin is like, hold on. Are we talking about you with Samantha? Let's be clear. Tyrell claims it's about him, and Martin is like second guessing it. So finally, Tyrell admits that basically Samantha wanted to talk to Smitty alone, which pisses Martin off. Because he's like, "What is she in trouble with some boy?" And Tyrell's like, "Why do you always jump to the worst thing?" Like, no. And he's like, "Actually, Samantha's mind is on much bigger things than boys." So Martin makes it clear, "I will not. I refuse to be kept in the dark." Okay. And then Smitty is asking Samantha the same thing. Well, why did you come talk to me? And she's like, because you're the more reasonable one. And I feel like you listen and you respect my ability to make my own decisions. And he's like, oh, you're trying to gaslight me right now. Smitty reminds her that you make all important family decisions together. She understands, but she knows that she won't get anywhere with Martin without his help. She's begging Smitty, please take my side on this. And that's when we see Martin and Tyrell come back downstairs. And so Martin is like, oh, well, fill me in. Okay. Haley goes over to the law firm. She walks in Bill's office and she can see that he's kind of like, wheels are churning or whatever. So she's like, oh, well, what's going on? Are you working on your strategy to beat Naomi? And he's like, yeah, it's not going to be as easy as I thought. And he's like, I need to take a break. So she suggests, they go get lunch. And then he's like, well, let's go to the country club. And obviously Haley isn't really feeling it because she knows nobody likes her. And she's not really accepted in that space. So Bill plans to go and, throw his weight around and try to get them to accept Haley. He feels like, he has as much power in the community as Danny. And we all know that's not true because guess what? You are not a Dupree. Okay. Not by any means. Danny is having a meeting at the country club with Hannah. Okay. Remember Hannah's name because Hannah got the business. Okay. Anyway, so Hannah's from First Gen, right? Danny tells her that she was up all night thinking about ideas after the fashion show for their program, and they talk about how successful it was and how much money they raised. And then Hannah tells her, "I'm very happy that we got to end this on a high note." So Danny's like, "Well, what you mean end?" And so she lets her know, um, "Well, technically, we decided it was a unanimous decision, and we decided that you got to go." So yeah, you're fired. Yeah, you're fired. You're removed. Well, I guess you can't get fired because it's like, but you're removed from the board, right? So then she gets a call and they get interrupted, and then in walks conveniently Haley and Bill, right? And they're all their PDA all on display. It was just awful. It was just awful. I hate how why can't they just leave Danny alone? I get it. It's assault. We got to antagonize her, but sometimes it just feels like unfair. Like leave her alone. And then when she flips, no, everybody want to be like, oh my God, she's unstable. Well, leave her alone. Oh, so anyway, so the waiter, now this was funny. So the waiter comes over to Bill's table, takes his order. And before Haley can even get out her little chicken salad that she want, he already walking off. He took Bill's and moved on. And so Bill's like, hold on, hold on. And he's like, you know what? Let me order for her. And so he legitimately has to order for her for the server to pay Haley any type of mind. Like, I don't even think he acknowledged her. I think when I watched it the second time, I believe he came up and he said, Mr. Hamilton. Like he literally only did not give her, he paid her dust. Okay. So, and I ain't gonna lie, I got a good little key out of it. Then Hannah comes back in and lets Danny know that, based on her recent behavior at Bill's wedding, she violated their morality clause. And like I said, it was a unanimous vote. And so they decided to get rid of her. And Hannah tells her that the world basically seen her attempt to pow someone. So Danny's like, first of all, I never did that, which we did see you with a weapon. I mean, I'm all for playing advocate here, but we saw what we saw, Danny. Okay. Now, whether you completed the mission or not, it's different, but we all saw it. Danny was like, well, the wedding happened weeks ago. Why are you just now making this decision? And so Hannah admits that she put a lot of effort into the show and she wanted to see it through. So Danny is like, so you basically used me, allowed me to raise money for your organization, knowing you were letting me go. And Hannah's like, yeah, that's what we did. And so meanwhile, of course, Bill and Haley, because they ain't got nothing better to do, they over in the corner hustling, eating up all of this, unfortunate circumstances that are happening to Danny. Back at Congressman Richardson's house, Samantha is finally telling Martin about her dreams and, her dreams of modeling. Martin isn't trying to hear anything Samantha has to say. Martin says that he's not going to let her throw her future away on a childish whim. And Samantha tells him, I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I'll live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, come on, y'all, they will not take her dignity. I'm sorry, I've been on a Whitney Houston kick lately. But no, that's not really what she said. She basically let him know, that's fine. I knew you was going to act this way, and I'm going to do it with or without your approval. Okay. Anita comes into the country club and Danny's all upset. And so she's like, what's wrong? And so Danny accuses her of having knowledge. She was being removed from the board. She doesn't think there's any way Anita doesn't know because most of the funding comes from the Dupree Foundation. So of course Anita is shocked because she's like, I still have no idea what you're talking about. So Danny explains that she was let go for her antics. Anita tells her that she'll take care of it because she realizes their excuse is bullshit, right? So Danny tells her, you know what, I appreciate it. I know you got pulled, but I don't even want to be nowhere that I'm treated that way. And I said, Big ups to you, Danny. You could tell that she's learning a lot from her mistakes with Bill and how he treated her, and trying to learn her lessons and take her safe out of space, take herself out of spaces where she's not being appreciated. And I see that I see that growth, Danny. I see it. I see it. I peep it. Okay. And he just like, all right, cool. But she tells her, I don't want you to feel bad about what they've done. Meanwhile, Haley is still basking in the fact that, she got to watch Danny lose her position. Feels like now she's not the only outcast. And I said, no, that's totally different, sweetie. That's totally different. I don't even know how Haley had the nerve. We'll get there. I'm skipping ahead. We get there, but she made me mad. So Tyrell. Tyrell is talking to Samantha and he's like, look, sis, they're, upstairs in their room. And it seems like they share the same room or something because they are always in the same room, or is she always in his room? It's really confusing. He's like, why do you even want to be a model? She's like, oh, because, I want the spotlight. I want the, fame or whatever. And he's like, I want the exact opposite. I am so not for all this attention that I'm getting. And the only thing that worried me, and I want y'all thoughts, and I don't want to predict nothing that's bad, and I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer at all. But I made sure I got this word for word. Tyrell realizes that even that they're twins, they're completely different. And she wants to be famous, and he doesn't want people to even know he exists. I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching, y'all. Did that not come off super dark to y'all? So Martin asked Smitty if he thought he was too hard on Samantha. Smitty explains that, yeah, you did kind of do a lot. Samantha is not going to be on 17 magazine tomorrow. She has time to work her way into her career, and they can be there every step of the way. And then he lets Martin know that the kids believe that he's the more reasonable parent. And Martin's like, oh, really? He's like, do they really? And so Smitty kind of changes the subject. And he's like, is there a reason you're so against Samantha modeling? And he's like, is it because you want to do this presidential thing and you're worried about your reputation if they do something? And Martin denies that that's it and tells Smitty that he's just being naive. So I hate, the one thing that I hate about Martin, although he is very smart, I'm sure, the fact that he acts like he's the smartest person in the room all the time. And no one can tell him anything. Did anybody else pick up on that? He does that a lot, and it really annoys the SHI out of me. Okay. So basically, Smitty says, look, I really need you for the peace of our household to really consider saying yes. And then we see, Martin, and he makes a phone call, and obviously, who better than the call? This is what I've been saying from the jump. Let's call Danny, right? So we see him go pull up on Danny at the country club, and he lets her know that Samantha really wants to pursue a career after being on that runway. And he's like, I need your opinion. Samantha is at home, and she's telling Smitty how Martin overreacts all the time. Smitty tries to explain to the kids, father being in the public eye, they'd be under more scrutiny. So he likes to be in, a little bit more control over them and what they're doing. Samantha lets him know that there's nothing wrong with being a model. So I don't understand what he's concerned about. And so finally, Smitty tells her that, Martin doesn't like change. And he's like, you remember how your daddy acted when I wanted to go back to work and I had to give him some time, but eventually he came around. I love when Tyrell said, it seems like y'all just walk around on eggshells to make Martin comfortable. Why is it not the other way around? I said, give that kid a prize. Okay. So very valid points. Smitty tells them he's like, look, in a relationship, any relationship, respecting the other person's point of view is important. Danny tells Martin, back at the country club, Danny tells Martin that modeling is very rewarding, especially if Samantha has a good team behind her. Martin worries about the predators, and Danny says that that's why she'll need a good manager. And she asked him when he shared his political dreams with his parents, they didn't shoot him down. They supported him. Martin doesn't see it as the same and worries that, Samantha's going to be judged by the public. And Danny has to remind him, you have a job in politics. You're also in the limelight, and you're also judged by like your donors and your voters. Like you still have people to please. So Danny reminds him that he got an opportunity because his grandparents and his parents allowed him to pursue it. So he's still having a hard time. He's like, Samantha's my baby girl. And Danny's like, I clearly, you saw what I did last night. I can obviously relate. And but she reminds him that, look, you can either dim her light or you can let her shine. And of course, mm, I won't give it to you, but I think you already know where we're going. That's Martin. He's selfish, all right? Anita comes back home, fat up. All right. Anita comes back and she tells Vernon about how the first gen kicked Danny off the board. Vernon's like, oh, this is the worst possible time that this could happen to Danny, and hope it doesn't deter her progress. So Anita worries, well, what if the other board she's affiliated with follows suit and says that, I got a plan. I'm gonna make sure that don't happen. Yeah. Yes, I loved it. I love every minute of when she started getting the business. I said, go, shawty. Okay. Martin comes home and he, tells Samantha, look, let's talk. He lets her know that he spoke to Danny and that he's proud of her. And, he gives her all of her accolades, but says that he can't support her dreams of modeling. I literally, in this moment, like, went back to being a kid, and it was something that I really, really, and even when I wanted to sing, my mom supported that wholeheartedly. That's the crazy part. So I absolutely felt terrible for Samantha, because I can only imagine somebody telling me no, I couldn't. And so she questions why Tyrell gets to do everything he wants and she can't do anything. And she asks Martin why he doesn't trust her. And Samantha tells her, because she's like, I can't date, I can't do nothing. And then he starts to be a smartass. And he's like, well, Tyrell is in the chess club. If you want to go play the chess club, go be in the chess club. Since you like to argue, why don't you go join the debate club? And she's like, see, that's how I know you have no respect for me, because you're joking. And I don't find it cute. And I said, I don't know about y'all, and I don't know if anybody else saw it. That is definitely Kat's niece. When I tell you she is, in my opinion, she is a little cat, like in the making. Just how sharpness, her wittiness, she's a little cat. I love it. Martin tells her, look, I just don't want you to be hurt. And, not everybody has good intentions. Samantha says she understands and walks off. Smitty comes from around the corner and lets him know that, Samantha, I'm afraid she's gonna start rebelling. And then we see her go upstairs back into, I guess, her brother's room or their room, and calls Chelsea and says that, her father's didn't forbid her from modeling. So she's going for it. She's gonna do it. All right. Even though we know that's a bold-faced lie. And so Chelsea agrees she'll manage her, which I thought was very sweet. And so Samantha, even though we know it's under the pretense of a lie, and Samantha wants, and that's the only thing I didn't like, because I said then you might possibly get Chelsea in some ish that she didn't even know she was in, but it's okay. We don't know. Look, we don't know. I'm sure all got in trouble for some of my younger cousins and older than, vice versa. Samantha's like, well, what do I need to do to get started? She's just very anxious to jump on it. Now, y'all, let's get into the best scene of this episode, okay? Anita invites Hannah over, and she gets there all excited because oh, Vernon, I'm glad that you're here. We got some things to talk about because I would love your input on this about whatever for first gen. First of all, you're a little too excited to see my husband. That would have been my first thing if I was Anita. We'll get there. So Anita said, calm down, calm down. We're not here for that. We're very much aware that you let Danny go from the board after using her services to raise money and host the fashion show. So Hannah explains, look, running a community service organization, I have to act when a board member compromises our image. All right. So Vernon tells her that, you know what, I agree. And you can tell Hannah's like sitting there, thought she did something. She was like, mm-hmm. That was another thing that I didn't like. I don't know about y'all. And ladies, gentlemen, I think he can go across the board. If I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to you, and you start addressing my partner and talking around me to get a hoping you're going to get a different response, oh, I might have to whoop your ass. Just straight up. That was so disrespectful to me. And I love the way Anita handled her because it was so disrespectful. So we'll get there. Anyway, Anita breaks the news and says, look, well, guess what? Vernon agrees and I agree with him. We got to get rid of you. Okay, boo? Okay, Bookie. And so Anita tells her First Gen will no longer be a part of the Dupree Foundation, and she doesn't feel that they're great role models for the community, and tells her there goes most of their financing. I said, damn. And then Hannah calls her petty, and Anita says, no, I call it justice, sweetie. Anita. Hannah tries to guilt trip her into thinking, it's going to hurt the students. And she's looking at Vernon and she's like, are you going to let this happen? Again, it was too many times Hannah tried it. Hannah tried it. So she said, oh, we already thought about that. And we're going to help the students because we're going to start our own charity that does the same thing. And it's going to be new and improved. And Danny's going to be the chair on the board. And, because she has so many ideas that you would not even listen to. So, and she then lets her know that if First Gen does go under, maybe she can go to Danny and beg for a job at the new charity and hope she's more merciful than she would be. I said, drops the mic. Anita did that, y'all. Anita did that. When I was sitting here with my popcorn. I was like, y'all, Anita did that. I told y'all, if it ain't nothing else that I watch this show for, it's for the reads. And these Dupree women probably read down better than some of these housewives I be watching. I ain't even gonna hold you, okay? So then we see Bill and Haley. He's so evil. Y'all, he is so evil. So he comes over to, like I said, rub it in and tells her, oh, well, not working with Chelsea and, not working not doing anything on the charity. I don't know what you're going to do with your days. And so then Haley the whore, the heifer, the harlot, decides to come over and say, well, Danny, I feel bad for you because you got dissed on your own turf. And says, she gets it. She understands how she feels. And I said, I love when Danny said, sweetheart, first of all, Danny said, Bill, get your bitch. Get your bitch. Literally, get your bitch. Okay? And look, Danny said, we have nothing in common, sweetie. She said, in order for you to keep from being a pariah, you have to cling to Bill. However, me, I don't need Bill, baby. I'm a Dupree. I said, where them fans at? Yeah. I said, go ahead, Danny. You better, girl. You better. And so Danny said that, yeah, she don't need Bill. She's a Dupree. And she is already working on her plan of getting back on top. And I said, I believe it. And I love that she just didn't let them break her, because Bill is just so evil. And now again, Haley is clearly, I guess, getting into her inner villain era, because I was talking to a family member about it on my way home from work. And I said, for someone who has pulled a pow pow on you at your wedding, has broken into your home, you would think that Haley would leave Danny the hell alone. Like she would have some type of fear in her heart. But she don't. She gonna keep trying it. I don't know, y'all. But anyway, that was this episode 32 of Beyond the Gates. If you guys have not already, please, please, please make sure y'all hit that like button for me. And make sure you comment. Make sure that you guys subscribe. And make sure you hit that notification bell So you know when I'm dropping new episodes and when we're dropping other stuff on the channel, y'all. Sorry. Make sure that you are following us on all the platforms. That's TikTok, Blue Sky, IG, and the Facebook. And I will catch you tomorrow to close out this week of Beyond the Gates. But yeah, y'all, be good. Happy Friday. And see you tomorrow. Bye bye.